Alright. Hey everyone. Sorry about that. I posted this video the first time and it was echoey, so I had to go back through and spend like 20 minutes trying to debug my audio setup. And of course it was something totally stupid, like I was broadcasting out the same channel I was inputting and causing an echo loop. So I think I fixed it. I've gone through several different iterations on this, and I think it's fixed finally. So with that said, hey, the first time is always great for practice, and now I kind of know what I want to talk about a little bit better. So what are we talking about? We're talking about Ortho4XP, hey, and HDMesh, and the differences between the two. So yeah, so this discussion came out of a discussion that I was having on Ortho4XP. I kind of launched this grenade into the room of, hey, if you have any questions on Ortho4XP, ask me. And of course everybody had questions, and we started doing this whole discussion on Ortho versus HDMesh, and so I wanted to kind of go through that, and also on how I build Ortho tiles, because I know that some people have had some issues with that in the past, and so we'll go ahead and talk through that. I hope this helps. Hopefully there's no echo on this now. I think I fixed that problem, but I am monitoring the live stream on Facebook. So if I am getting an echo and somebody wants to yell at me and have me stop sooner than before I'm done broadcasting, then hopefully we can short circuit the echo problem. Anyway, so Ortho4XP and HDMesh. So first of all, probably want to start a little bit with how scenery works in X-Plane. And so to visualize this, I like using Xorganizer. It's kind of how I view all my, or how I organize and keep all my scenery organized. Because as you fly X-Plane for a while, you will find that you will download all sorts of airports and regional sceneries and these overlay models and libraries and a million different libraries, and it just becomes a mess after a while. So Xorganizer, it's free off of the forums.xplane.org site, and it's awesome. So scenery is loaded in, I guess, descending order from smallest to smallest regional area to largest regional area, and basically all of this is stored in what's called a scenery.ini file that will be stored in your X-Plane 11 custom scenery and scenerypacks.ini. Xorganizer is just, like I said, you can manage this scenerypacks.ini by hand. It's kind of painful. Xorganizer just gives you a nice way to visually look at it and see everything. So, like I said, everything is loaded locally to geographically. So our airports will always come first, specifically our custom airports, and then the default airports, regional scenery that we have. So for example, I have some stuff for San Francisco and Tucson and London. Then I have my World to X-Plane OSM mesh, and then any libraries that you have, followed by your overlays. So this is your photo scenery, ortho overlays, and we'll talk a little bit about what those are. Your photo scenery, so this is all my ortho data, and then my HDMesh. So this is my HDMesh, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of HDMesh and how it works. But what you would see in this is, so one of the common problems that people have with scenery packs is when X-Plane by default loads a new scenery file, it just basically slaps it to the top of the file. So these load top to bottom. So if you load your photo scenery before you load your airports, you will basically end up on a screen where you just basically have scenery and no airport, because basically you're overlaying, you're loading the photo on top of the airport, and so you never actually see the airport. That's why it has to be structured in such a way that the airport is loaded first, or I guess maybe it's bottom to top. But anyway, the scenery is loaded first, and the airport is overlaid on top of the scenery. So with that said, there's a couple different add-ons for X-Plane. So there is HDMesh. HDMesh basically provides elevation data as well as improved overlay data for the default X-Plane scenery. Ortho4XP is basically creating orthophotographic tiles, photo tiles, and so it's downloading these pictures, satellite image pictures, and then basically using that for the underlay, so you kind of get that real view of the scenery. Now, with that said, you can only have one running at a time, so either HDMesh or your photo scenery. If you have both installed on one tile, you'll never see the HDMesh, you'll only see the photo scenery. So one of the things I want to talk about is there's a way to use HDMesh data. You can extract the overlay data from the HDMesh and apply that to your photo scenery. So if we look at what I have installed here, if we look at my HDMesh, I have HDMesh that I downloaded. You can download this from alpilotx.net. These are the downloads for it. You can download them as torrent files. They're pretty big. They're gigs, gigs and gigs of data, or megs. Yeah, it's I'm not sure, but it's a lot of data. And so with that said, I can use the HDMesh in all of these areas. Now, if we look at my photo scenery, it's going to work. Click. Okay. This is where I have Ortho Photo Scenery installed. So like I said before, it always loads in ascending order. So if I was to start a flight in Chicago, I have no Ortho Photo Scenery, so it would load the HDMesh. If I loaded a flight in San Diego, I have a photo scenery, so it would load the photo scenery, and you would never see the HDMesh because it would be loaded underneath the photo scenery. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll talk a little bit about how to kind of combine these two together. So basically, what you can do is when you build your Ortho4XP, we'll extract that overlay data. So there's something to know about overlays. So overlays, so if you in Ortho4XP are completely independent of the actual photo tile themselves. So if you build a tile without an overlay, you would basically start at a spot with an airport, but there would be no roads, there would be no autogen scenery, there would be nothing. It would just be the file. It would just be the photo tile. The overlay data basically provides all the autogen scenery, the roads, the traffic, the lights that you see from the sky. All that comes from these overlay files. There's really kind of two ways those files get built. Most tutorials that you will see will have you go into X-Plane and build them out of global scenery, X-Plane global scenery. You can do that, and that's awesome. The other place you can do it if you want to use the HDMesh is build out of custom scenery and then your HD global scenery folder. So this is my HDMesh, and we'll kind of walk through that. So let's say I want to build a tile. I'm going to go into Ortho4XP, And so normally when I build a tile, I'm going to choose Bing Zoom Level 17. I like building all my tiles in Zoom Level 17. And we'll pick a tile that we want to build. So to do that, we're going to open this Earth tile map. And I don't know, let's build one. You can see I'm kind of working on this southern area. Let's just build, yeah, let's build that one. So when I go into here, you'll see it's selected 33100, Zoom Level 17. It's going to build the OSM data first, so this is from OpenStreetMaps. So we'll talk a little bit about that. It'll build the base mesh, and then it's going to build masks out the water, any kind of data that it doesn't have good photographic scenery for, and then it builds the tile. And then you can see the overlay is built last. And so, like I said, normally, in a lot of cases, for most X-Plane tutorials you see, they'll have you go under X-Plane 11, global scenery, and that's how you build your overlay, which is a totally legit way to build your overlay for that. Overlays are stored. Right here. Tiles. Nope, not there. In overlays, EarthNav data. So if we wanted to build an overlay for 33100, it would be right here. And as you can see, we haven't built that yet because we don't have that. We haven't built that tile. But if I went into a tile that I do have, so let's say I don't know, what's this one? 3399. We could see here that I do have an overlay for 3399. Plus 33, negative 99. So now I can actually just delete that overlay, and that overlay is now gone. So if I loaded my plane in an airport in plus 33, negative 99, I would have no roads, no overlays, no anything like that. Now I can build an overlay for that. So this is going to build it using the X-Plane global scenery. And this is actually really quick. It takes a minute, 6 seconds. And now I will have an overlay using the X-Plane global scenery. The other option for this is to build it using my HDMesh data. So if I go to HDMesh and I select this folder and build overlay, now I'm going to build an overlay using the HDMesh. And this will take a minute as well. But you know, now if we go back into our Ortho4XP overlays, you can see we have a new overlay built for plus 33, negative 99. So yeah, so that is the big key piece I would definitely highlight is overlays are not equal to the tile. I can delete overlays, I can rebuild overlays, and I don't actually have to delete the underlying tile data, which is huge because the tiles tend to be gigs. The overlays are 7 megs, right? So they're relatively small. Yeah, so that's pretty much the piece on overlays. The other piece I wanted to talk about a little bit is kind of building tiles in the process. So one of the things that I see a lot of people get stuck on is step 1, which is the OSM data, right? And I actually, it took me a little while, I kind of hacked around and found what the issue was with this. But basically, there is a limited number of servers. They're called Overpass API servers. And what you're typically running into if that hangs is the server is not responding. So what I found is that those server configs are stored here. Not here. Let's open this with a real text editor. At the very, very bottom. And you'll see overpass underscore server underscore list. And there's a list of them, and then there is a variable here that basically calls the string, which is the server name, and tries to randomize which server it's using. So what I found particularly with this kumi.systems and this rambler.ru servers, they are slow or they don't connect at all. But I believe those are in the default configuration. So what I ended up doing in my configuration is adding 2 new ones and putting in this lz4.overpass-api.de and the z.overpass-api.de into here. And that so far has taken care of my issues. You can actually see these have some capacity requirements and they're throttled. And so I think what's happening is with everybody starting to build Ortho4XP scenery, they're getting overloaded. So let's take a look at building that. So we'll go in. We've changed our configuration. So now we should be using those 2 servers, LZ4 and Z. You can see I have the other 2 defined, but I'm not actually using them. I'm only using 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and go to our Earth tile map. We'll build a couple tiles. At least I'll kind of show you what that looks like. And so when I go in, open Ortho4XP, basically the only things I change is my base source, which is who you want to get maps from. So in this case I'm using Bing, but there's other options you can use based on what part of the world you're in. The base zoom level, so in my case I set everything to 17. Some people build 16s. Like I know the Ortho photo project that's available on that you can download, the pre-built Ortho off of forums.explain.org is all built in ZL16. But I'm going to go ahead and build mine in 17. We can also talk later about custom zoom levels. You can actually do some really cool things with getting even more granular than that. But for the sake of this video, we won't. So I'm going to check my custom overlay directory. I always select again my HDMesh directory, and then basically the top level. Don't click into the Earth Nav data. You want to be able to see the Earth Nav data folder in this window. And that's pretty much it. So then we'll load our tile map and select a tile we want to build. Oh, let's do this. Click build masks, build overlays, and then batch build our tile. And what should happen is we should see now step 1, we're building our OSM data for this tile plus 33100. We only have 1 tile that we're building. But again, most people I see have the problems where it hangs right here. And if your Ortho4XP is hanging right here in this step 1, it's because of your server configuration in your Ortho4XP config file. Yeah, so like that's pretty quick. This should take, oh, sorry, this is pretty quick. This OSM data, it shouldn't take much longer than like a minute or 2 to download all of this. So if you're running into issues where that is not working, that's your problem. Again, custom overlays, not required. If you don't build one, you will just load a tile that has no auto-gen buildings on it. And again, big key takeaway for this video, these are independent of the tiles. I can delete these, add these, rebuild these all I want all day long and never actually change my actual underlying tile. So that's pretty much it. This video wasn't as good as the other one. I guess second time is not a charm. But I hope this helped. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer. But hopefully this was somewhat useful information. And I will talk with y'all soon.